In the summer of 216 BC, the Roman Republic stood on the edge of one of the greatest disasters in its history, though almost no one realized it. For nearly 2 years, the brilliant Carthaginian commander Hannibal Barca had marched through Italy, defeating every Roman army sent against him. His impossible crossing of the Alps with thousands of soldiers, cavalry, and war elephants had shocked the ancient world. After crushing Roman forces at the Trebia River and Lake Trasimene, Hannibal proved Rome was no longer invincible. Each victory destroyed another Roman army while strengthening Hannibal's reputation as one of history's greatest military commanders. Fear spread across Italy as city after city wondered whether Rome could still protect its allies from the unstoppable Carthaginian invasion. Inside Rome, panic mixed with determination as senators debated how to stop an enemy who seemed to predict every Roman move. Some leaders demanded caution, while others insisted only a massive battle could finally destroy Hannibal. Rome chose confidence over patience, believing overwhelming numbers would succeed where previous armies had failed. Never before had the Republic assembled such an enormous fighting force for a single battle. Nearly 80,000 Roman infantry and thousands of cavalry gathered from across Italy, creating one of the largest armies the ancient world had ever seen. Veteran soldiers marched beside inexperienced recruits, convinced they would soon crush the exhausted invaders. Command of this mighty army was shared between 2 Roman consuls, Lucius Aemilius Paulus and Gaius Terentius Varro. Although both served the Republic, they possessed very different personalities and ideas about warfare. Paulus respected Hannibal's intelligence and urged careful planning before risking another major battle. Varro believed Rome's overwhelming numbers guaranteed victory and argued hesitation only encouraged the enemy. Each day, command of the Roman army alternated between the 2 consuls, creating uncertainty before the most important battle of their lives. Meanwhile, Hannibal carefully observed every Roman movement, studying both their soldiers and commanders. Unlike Rome, Hannibal commanded a smaller army of Africans, Iberians, Gauls, Numidians, and many other peoples united under one leader. Though greatly outnumbered, these soldiers had fought together for years, becoming one of the most disciplined armies of the ancient world. Hannibal knew he could never defeat Rome through numbers alone. Instead, he searched for the perfect battlefield where intelligence could overcome size. Near the small village of Cannae in southeastern Italy, he finally found exactly what he had been waiting for. As both armies slowly approached the dusty plains of Cannae, neither side could escape the feeling that history was about to be written. The greatest military masterpiece of the ancient world was only moments away from unfolding. Hannibal understood that the battlefield at Cannae offered exactly the conditions he needed to defeat a much larger army. A wide, open plain gave his famous cavalry enough space to unleash their full speed and devastating mobility. The nearby Aufidus River secured water for both armies while limiting the directions from which the Romans could safely maneuver. Strong seasonal winds often carried thick clouds of dust across the battlefield, reducing visibility for anyone facing south. Hannibal carefully chose his camp so the wind and dust would blow directly into the faces of the advancing Romans. Every detail of the battlefield became another weapon in the Carthaginian commander's carefully prepared plan. Meanwhile, the enormous Roman army arrived near Cannae filled with confidence and eager to end the war in a single day. Many Roman soldiers believed victory was already certain simply because they outnumbered Hannibal by a massive margin. Their supplies were plentiful, their morale remained high, and thousands of fresh recruits dreamed of returning home as heroes. Inside the Roman camp, however, disagreements between the 2 consuls continued to grow more serious. Paulus remained cautious, warning that Hannibal was almost certainly preparing another deadly trap. Varro rejected those concerns and insisted that delaying the battle would only strengthen the enemy's confidence. As command alternated once again, the Roman army found itself following 2 completely different strategies on consecutive days. Hannibal quietly welcomed this confusion, recognizing that divided leadership often led to disastrous decisions. His own officers admired the calm confidence their commander displayed despite facing overwhelming odds. Instead of worrying about Rome's enormous numbers, Hannibal focused entirely on discipline, timing, and coordination. He personally inspected every unit, speaking with soldiers from many different nations who now fought together as one army. African veterans sharpened their weapons, while Iberian and Gallic warriors prepared for another brutal clash. The fearless Numidian cavalry checked their horses, ready to strike with unmatched speed when the moment arrived. Every soldier understood that the coming battle could determine the future of Carthage itself. As dawn approached, thousands of campfires illuminated both armies across the dark plains of Cannae. The silence between the two camps felt almost unnatural, broken only by distant horses and marching guards. Neither army fully understood that the following day would become one of the most studied battles in military history. When the sun finally began to rise above the Italian horizon, both commanders gave the order to prepare for battle. The fate of Rome would soon hang on a single decision made upon the fields of Cannae. The morning of August 2nd, 216 BC, arrived beneath a blazing Italian sun as two of the greatest armies of the ancient world prepared to fight. Roman soldiers formed into massive ranks, stretching across the plain with confidence born from their overwhelming numbers. Varro, commanding that day, believed a direct assault would finally crush Hannibal once and for all. He ordered the Roman infantry to assemble in unusually deep formations designed to smash through the enemy center. Thousands of heavy infantry locked their shields together, creating an unstoppable wall of steel aimed directly at the Carthaginian line. Roman cavalry took their positions on both wings, prepared to protect the advancing infantry from enemy horsemen. Across the battlefield, Hannibal calmly arranged his army according to a plan no Roman commander could possibly imagine. He placed his experienced African infantry on both flanks, keeping his strongest soldiers hidden where they would be needed most. At the center stood Iberian and Gallic warriors, forming a slightly curved line that bulged toward the advancing Romans. To many observers, the Carthaginian center appeared dangerously weak compared to the massive Roman formation. On the wings, Hannibal stationed his powerful cavalry under the command of Hasdrubal and Maharbal. The swift Numidian horsemen waited patiently for the signal that would decide the battle. Before the fighting began, Hannibal rode along his lines, encouraging every soldier with calm confidence. He reminded them that they had defeated Rome before and could do so again if every man trusted the plan. As the distance between the armies slowly disappeared, drums echoed across the battlefield and thousands of voices filled the air. The Roman advance began exactly as Hannibal had expected. Their enormous infantry formation pushed forward with tremendous force, determined to break through the enemy center immediately. Soon the first shields collided, and the Battle of Cannae erupted into one of the fiercest clashes of the ancient world. Neither side realized that Hannibal's carefully prepared masterpiece had already begun unfolding. Within the next few hours, the Roman Republic would face the greatest military catastrophe in its history. The battlefield at Cannae was about to reveal why Hannibal Barca would be remembered as one of history's greatest commanders. Rome had marched forward expecting victory. Instead, it had unknowingly stepped into one of the deadliest traps ever created. The fate of an empire would now be decided by Hannibal's extraordinary strategy. One brilliant maneuver would soon change military history forever. The Roman infantry continued pushing forward with incredible determination, believing victory was now only moments away. As they advanced deeper into the Carthaginian line, Hannibal's center slowly bent backward exactly as he had planned. To the Romans, it appeared that the enemy was collapsing under the pressure of their unstoppable assault. Encouraged by what seemed like success, more Roman soldiers crowded into the narrowing gap ahead of them. The massive formation lost its flexibility as thousands of men pressed tightly together with almost no room to maneuver. Meanwhile, Hannibal calmly waited for the perfect moment to unleash the next phase of his strategy. Then the African infantry on both flanks suddenly turned inward with perfect discipline. The battle line that had appeared to be breaking now transformed into a deadly trap, closing from both sides. Roman soldiers found themselves attacked from the front and from both flanks at the same time. Confusion spread rapidly as officers struggled to issue orders that could no longer be heard. At that very moment, Hasdrubal's cavalry crushed the Roman horsemen and drove them completely from the battlefield. Instead of celebrating, the victorious cavalry quickly rode behind the Roman army. Within minutes, the Numidian cavalry joined them, completing the encirclement. The Romans suddenly realized they were surrounded on every side with no possible escape. Thousands fought desperately, but there was almost no space even to raise their swords. The enormous army that had marched forward so confidently was now trapped inside Hannibal's perfect double envelopment. Hour after hour, the circle tightened as exhausted Roman soldiers were slowly overwhelmed. Entire units disappeared beneath the relentless pressure from every direction. Panic replaced discipline as survival became impossible for countless Roman legionaries. When the fighting finally ended, tens of thousands of Roman soldiers lay dead across the plains of Cannae. It was one of the most devastating defeats the Roman Republic had ever suffered. Hannibal had accomplished what no commander before him had ever achieved. The Battle of Cannae became the greatest tactical masterpiece in military history. But even after this unbelievable victory, Hannibal still faced one final decision that would shape the future of Rome forever. Would he march directly toward the heart of the Roman Republic or choose another path?